There's going to be one good thing for risk assets, and that is a government spending spree. Let's break it down. Let's get right into it. I do want to thank our sponsor today, and that is Tangem. This is a place where you can get into self-custody. If you are prepping for a trade, you're trying to lower your cost on trades, you're trying to just secure your tokens, or maybe you're testing self-custody for the very first time, go over to tangem.com. Use our link down below. It's going to give you a hardware wallet that works like a little credit card with your phone. It's one of the best ones out there. Check it out. Use the link down below. Get a little bit of a discount to get started on your self-custody journey. And what I'm talking about, guys, when it comes to the benefits of risk assets, including Bitcoin, all the things we talk about here within crypto, is how is the government spending money? Well, one of the ways that we're going to be looking and continuing to see is tariffs. Tariffs, of course, is what we are waiting on right now on a Supreme Court verdict. They, of course, have now moved that, and there is no ruling on the Trump tariff case today. According to Watch Guru, they said they would move this back over to Wednesday of next, so that's when we will get a court ruling. I don't understand why this is needing to be moved unless there is something that is a last-minute assessment being done by one of the Supreme Court judges. Is that good or bad? According to Polymarket, it still shows that the tariff ruling is going to happen not in favor of President Trump and the administration. So if that does occur, we're holding at, what is that, 26% right now probability of the Supreme Court upholding the tariffs. So not a good run right now. We'll see if it holds in terms of the decision as Polymarket starts to go into next week. So when you look at the tariff situation right now, I guess the real question is what is the Trump administration going to do? I don't think they're going to stop. Take a look at this clip.
And what you would do, or the administration would do, to continue those policies.
Right. Well, you know, certainly there's a high level of confidence that the Supreme Court's going to side with us. We think that we're really on firm ground. But I know you expect us to say that. And so then the question is, well, what if we're wrong about that? And it's important to think about that, too. There was a big call last night with all the principals to talk about if the Supreme Court were to rule against this IEEPA tariff, what would the next step be? And Jamieson Greer is all over it. There are a lot of other legal authorities that can reproduce the deals that we've made with other countries and can do so basically immediately. And so our expectation is that we're going to win. And if we don't win, then we know that we've got other tools that we can use that get us to the same place. And, you know, I think that the IEEPA authority is pretty clear. It's why it's the first choice of how to use it. But if the courts disagree, we'll, of course, respect that. But we got lots of other authorities that we could use.
Pay attention here, guys, because that's Kevin Hassett making these statements. And when you look at one of the top financial advisors to the president, of them already architecting a backfall or, you know, backup plan, this is going to get pretty interesting over the next couple of months. What will the U.S. Supreme Court decide on Trump's tariffs? How will it affect the price of Bitcoin and risk assets? I think this is the key thing. In the article, they note here a ruling that customs tariffs are unconstitutional and could ease companies' cost burdens and potentially boost a little bit of the risk assets or appetite. This simply means we're going to see digital assets, I think, respond to this positively going forward. So be on the lookout. We could see a little bit of liquidity in the space starting to move around. Trump calls, though, for $1.5 trillion in military spending. This, to me, is absolutely insane. When you look at our debt clock, and by the way, the debt clock, remember when the debt clock used to have the Doge thing on there? That's gone. And they also have the tariff revenue thing on there, right there, tariff revenue in that first box. But right there, we are approaching $39 trillion in terms of U.S. national debt, almost $355,000 per taxpayer here in the United States. So this is a problem in general. Nothing stops this train, as Lynn Alden would say, and I would agree. I think we're going to continue to see a debasement trade, and the only way to get into that is going to be risk assets. Here is a recap of the government spending spree. Take a look.
Our military budget for the year 2027 should not be $1 trillion, but rather $1.5 trillion. This will allow us to build the dream military.
Also, Northrop Grumman up as much as 8%, Lockheed Martin up 7%, RTX up as much as 4%. But it's not just here in the U.S. Defense stocks rose in Asia, too.
Right. What is the appetite, George, for increasing annual defense spending by 50%?
You know, I guess I'm not sure.
The Venezuela project's day to day.
And we're looking for people who we can work with or pay off.
And start producing weapons faster.
My advice to European leaders and anybody else would be to take the President of the United States seriously.
George, it's a lot of money. Can we spend all that money in a year? I mean, how do we do that?
No, I mean, I think that's one of our concerns. You know, we're really jumping pretty quickly here, right?
The Congressional Budget Office says a $1.5 trillion budget would add $5.8 trillion to the debt, would be twice the expected tariff revenue.
Well, what's the pay raise going to be? It's going to be 4% for enlisted members of the military. And pay raise? Welcome news to military in southern Colorado.
The Trump administration is considering an unprecedented proposal to pay every resident of Greenland between $10,000 and $100,000 in cash to persuade them to break away from Denmark.
Alex, is this the right move by the president?
Oh, it's 100% the right move.
And it's crazy. We just want to be left alone.
By the way, is this what the $800 billion went to?
So we are going to be painting the entire southern border wall black. When something is painted black, it gets even warmer.
I mean, come on, guys, she looks ridiculous.
What was the feeling the first time you were on Air Force One?
Yeah, when you're on these things, like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
We need Greenland. Let's talk about Greenland in 20 days.
Right? You are where
part of history.
Real conversations happen.
You just wait for Cuba. Their days are numbered. We had Venezuela, we have Cuba, we have Colombia in our backyard.
I pray and hope that 2026 will be the year that we make Iran great again.
All right.
So as you can see, there are a lot of unpredictable situations that I think are brewing right now, obviously with many of the moves here within the government. That, of course, gets into a whole chaos theory that most of the time, well, almost all the time, digital assets, Bitcoin, et cetera, benefit from. Now, I'm not saying that's a good thing for in general, but all markets are looking at the world in a way that the United States is pretty much leading how this is going to play out. Now, remember, guys, we did a video not too long ago. Actually, it was about a year ago. We were getting into this whole issue around the spending bill and why it needed, this is in reference to the defense spending bills, and why it needed Chainlink to do an audit on the Pentagon. Here's a clip. Take a look. And when you look at the Pentagon right now, remember, these guys are great at doing audits. They're probably the best audit company out there of our political arrangement. They've been able to fail 6 straight audits. They failed 6 straight audits. So this is good. I think this is, we should, plan, let's go to 2 trillion, maybe 3 trillion. Why don't we just throw the entire budget at it? These are the kind of antics that consistently cause Americans to really question what the heck is going on in our government. I still have that question. What the heck is going on in our government? Fortunately, they didn't go to 2 trillion like I was mentioning, but stop watching the show, Trump. I'm telling you, stop watching the show. I understand what you're doing here now. So one thing to consider here is, with all of that happening in terms of government spending, then you can take a look at this tweet, which is U.S. unemployment data, which came in much softer at 4.4% versus 4.5% that was expected. And then you look at the January rate cut probability now, which is, I believe, and I would agree with Ted here, it's off the table. I don't think we are going to get a rate cut. Powell has a little bit of cover now not to give a quarter basis point rate cut. So I put out a poll this morning, and this was in reference to rate cuts before the chair leaves. The point is we offered the 25 basis point, a 50 and a 75, and there could be some arrangement there where you could get a 50 and a quarter that would give you a 75, because I don't think he has enough time to do that if he pauses here in January. And then none. None came in at 40%, so most likely that's the leading one right now. But when you flip the table a little bit, that's 60% that believe we will get a rate cut, which is at least a quarter, a 50, or a 75 in some form or fashion. So still a bit of a split here before Chair Powell leaves the office. And of course, I think will continue to put a lot of pressure on President Trump to put even more pressure on Chair Powell, even in his exit. So we may find, this would be interesting to me, is because I think a pause will not necessarily hurt the market in general, especially if Trump times this right. And what I mean by that is announcing the successor to Powell right before the FOMC meeting this month. That would be enough to kind of get, I think, markets maybe going forward and looking, kind of next up as a potential opportunity for risk assets. U.S. is experiencing a jobless boom. Growth is strong, but there's a hiring recession with almost no hiring outside of healthcare and hospitality. Well, let's just be honest. Healthcare and hospitality are the two biggest categories, okay, in the United States. So if that's the two that are hiring, that's great for the economy because those are the biggest ones that are out there and support jobs overall, including entry-level positions, executive positions, doctor positions, et cetera. But right now, 2025 was the worst year for hiring outside of a recession year since 2003. That I would agree with, and this is one of the things that I have been complaining for over the last 18 months is that jobs was a concern. But it appears that they have stabilized it. Now, does it hold is the real question. If it holds, we could see a different kind of economy come through. The key here is going to be wage growth from here forward. And I think this is the angle that President Trump should be, and the administration should be focused on, not necessarily affordability, but more of how, because we're not going to see prices come back ever. I think the key is how do we increase just wages and or reduce taxes to where the overall wage is higher, take-home pay. Those would be the kind of things to watch overall. Other things you got to look for right here, jobs every month of 2025 have been revised lower. This is something that I just continue to argue here on the show is that none of the data is accurate. Go with what you're seeing. I think trueflation is a pretty good accuracy in terms of inflation. And I think when you look at the market in general, at least the executives I get a chance to talk to, dozens monthly, sometimes more than that are running big major corporations. And that's the bellwether that I really look at. I have not had the seminars yet in January, so hopefully after this month I'll have a little bit of a better assessment on how that is really affecting the market in terms of jobs, because that's a big one to keep an eye on. I want to go to a clip real quick because this is Mohamed from CNBC. He talks a little bit about if we're going to see a cut at all from Chair Powell. Take a look.
It is the weakest year of job growth outside of recession in 20 plus years. Is that okay?
It is okay for where we are in the cycle. In fact, relative to expectation, as Sarah said, there's something for everyone in this report, and it's no drama. And it reinforces the notion that Chair Powell has that we are well positioned to wait. The big issue in my mind is that increasingly we're seeing employment decoupled from output. The labor force participation at 62.4, I'd like to see it higher because there are parts of the economy that do not have the labor they need right now. But that is an issue of reskilling, retooling. It's a much deeper issue about the supply side of the labor market.
So what do you think the Fed does?
So I think the Fed does nothing.
In January, but then what?
I think we've probably saw the last cut in this tenure for Chair Powell. I think they will expect that they will think that, quote, well-positioned. You'll hear that phrase over and over, we're well-positioned to wait. And then the question becomes how much influence does the next Fed chair have and how quickly?
All right, I don't know if I completely agree with Mohamed. I am leaning toward that right now based on these jobs numbers. And remember, we're only going to see, I think, one more FOMC before, maybe only one more FOMC before we see a new chair at least anointed, not necessarily in the position, but the market will start responding differently, I think, once that occurs, because they'll understand where this new chair is going. So if it is the last one, then you're probably looking at June as being the next time we see a real, considerable cut. And it could be as many as 50 basis points. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys think that would be the case. Hit them down there. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to the show, make sure and do that right now as well. I've got one more clip. This is good news. And this clip is going to go into the fact that they passed the ACA credits. Take a look.
And a bipartisan group of senators, they met today. They're discussing a 2-year extension of the tax credits, including some income caps to ensure that the tax credits only go to middle and lower income Americans, as well as some other things to address waste, fraud, and abuse. Of course, something hugely watched by the healthcare and the insurance industry right now as far as whether or not these tax credits will continue, because millions of Americans have already seen their healthcare premiums double with the end of these credits. Lawmakers say they think that if they can get a a solution by the time that January is over. They can reopen the exchanges, redo enrollment, but they still have some sticking points to go, including whether they should be using federal funds for abortion and whether there needs to be language in the bill clarifying that. So more work to go, but certainly some big momentum coming out of the House with this vote.
So that continues to be a little bit of good news coming out of that. And the other thing that you would look at is the Russell 2000. Here is a good example right now when you look at this tweet, and that is that we are starting to see a lift in small caps. Now, when you kind of zoom in on this starts to get into kind of all-time territory. If you look back all the way into the previous report on this, which is interesting all the way back into April of last year. So some pretty good opportunities. Now, what does that mean? Because when I watch the Russell 2000 mid caps, it usually will indicate that we could see a little bit of a move toward altcoins. It has a lot of similarities when you look at crypto in general. And of course, altcoins are defying Bitcoin right now, slump, especially with XRP, Solana, a handful of others that had some double-digit gains out there over on the market. So if you're trading right now, were you in one of these trades? Are you in one of these trades? Did you get in at XRP at $1.80? Did you get in Solana, at 125? Are you in a position right now to where you might ride these altcoins out, or are you looking at dollar cost averaging? Let me know how you guys are playing the market. This will get interesting for altcoins for sure, because there's a lot happening. Speaking of the leader of the altcoin nation, that of course is Tom Lee and his take on Ethereum. Now here was his statement off of a report that Van Eck put out. And Van Eck put out a report that was pretty bullish. I don't agree with it, and I'm a big ETH fan, but I'm not going to agree with this. The bull case on this is $154,000 ETH. The base case is at $22K. Now, Tom did not put the bear case out, which was $360. So the good thing is that Van Eck's not going to be wrong. They're going to be right. They'll be able to claim we were right on the last ETH bull run. But the range is a little bit out there. I'm going to have to talk to Matthew Siegel about this. What are these guys doing over at Van Eck? Let's get into this right here, because analysts are predicting a crypto ETF that are set to gobble up most of the liquidity entering the crypto markets this year. The real question is which one outperforms. Now, SWI is a new one that's coming in from Canary. You've got ETH, of course, we already know has some very powerful ETFs. Solana, another new one that has just recently been launched across a handful, being led mostly by Bitwise. And then, of course, you got the big boys in Bitcoin. I am going to go with the Ethereum. I'm going to go ahead should I go Ethereum or Solana? I'm kind of back and forth on these two. You know what? I'm going with Solana. Ooh, see, there you go. ETH, Solana, and SWI all outperforming, at least by our poll here, about 150 people saying that will be the one to go with. So ETH holding right now an edge at 28.7%. I'm going to retweet this one, see if we can bump those votes up, see what that looks like in 24 hours, because I think it might be Solana that will edge that out on the final poll. Let's go over to the chart real quick. You guys, of course, saw some of the news on Polygon, which has been rising coming off of that, remember, this broke the floor of where Polygon was. This was the one we've been talking about with Tim and other traders, that something had to happen good for Polygon. And finally, we started to see a little bit of movement overall. You take a look at the regular market right now, we are looking at Bitcoin kind of sideways and a little bit choppy right now. ETH kind of in the same position. And of course, XRP, after a big move up, retracing a little bit back down to around 208. So market is definitely in payback phase right now. Whether we get a big move on at least the situation I think we'll look for now is going to be market clarity. I'm looking at that. And the Fed chair announcement may be the other two catalysts that really start to move the market. For sure, we're going to keep a very close eye on it. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and also join our free private member group. The link is in the description.